Let's take a closer look at what Suno's really doing when it orchestrates a piano piece, or when you put some orchestration of other instruments into it, I assume. We'll start with something really simple so we can try and figure out what's going on. So I wrote this little piece, very derivative, but that's not the point here. Just a set of chords with a simple English kind of pomp melody on it. And we'll take this, we'll send it into Suno, get the stems out, both the audio and the MIDI, and look at them and see what is Suno really doing to orchestrate. Well, let me just play you a little bit of this. It's just one phrase that's repeated 3 times in here, and here's the basic phrase. So I ran this through Suno, basically just said, give me an orchestra, don't give me any drums. I set it to the standard settings that we've talked about and created a couple versions, and this is one that I chose here. It basically is a string, piano, and woodwind orchestration. Now what Suno did, I extracted all the stems here. It created 3 sets of stems for me, a set of woodwind stems, keyboard stems, and it called it FX stems, but this is really a combination of string and some woodwind stems. So first thing, Suno's not really orchestrating a full orchestra. You can't tell it to give me a string section and get first and second violins, viola, cello, bass, etc. It's going to reduce everything down and give you a reduced set of stems. And likely that's kind of how it's probably orchestrating too. I doubt it's thinking of a full orchestra when it's doing this, but kind of reducing down and trying to output sounds that make sense like an orchestration, but it's more a piecemeal conglomeration of stuff, I think, than trying to simulate a full orchestration of every instrument in the orchestra. Now what I did was I took the MIDI files and I threw them into a notation program. And quite frankly, I had to do a lot of massaging here. The MIDI that comes out, as we said in another video, can be offset. It can have wrong notes in it. You can have the woodwind part here wasn't really synced up with the string part. I had to do a lot of manipulation. In fact, so much manipulation that I probably would rather just take the audio and transcribe it by ear than do this. But at least this gives you a good feel for what Suno thinks it's putting out with MIDI. And then we'll take a look at some of the audio stems, how this basically interacts with each other. So let me play you what Suno really created and we'll kind of follow along. I put a few dynamic things in here, but the MIDI that came out was just kind of crap. It had a lot of tempo changes in it. Everything came out with one huge velocity of 127. I had to fix things up. Let's see what Suno did with that piano part, and it's actually kind of impressive. So I've brought up Cubase, and I have the 3 sets of stems that are created from this Suno output. I also have the Suno wave file that I've imported here too. There's FX stems, audio stems, that's the strings and an oboe for some reason. Then we have the keyboard stems, and then there's the woodwind stems, and that's just the ending oboe line. I don't know why some oboe is output in the FX part and some in this woodwind part. Obviously, Suno's doing something internally we're not quite sure of. But again, this is not really a full orchestration. It's Suno's, I think, interpretation of how it's going to orchestrate something that will sound similar to a real orchestration, but in fact is much more reduced. Now we can see that the actual stereo output, the levels of that are a little lower than just the level of the string itself. You can obviously bring the stems in, you can fix them up, you can normalize them how you want, you can maybe remove some noise. Obviously, if you want to use the audio output from the Suno, taking it into a DAW and a mastering program will probably give you much better output than using the direct output from Suno. Fortunately, you can do that, and a lot of people do work on the stems from Suno, though the stems do have their own set of problems to deal with. So let's just play the FX, the string and oboe stems to start. There the oboe comes in against the string background. Very nice. Now we'll just isolate the piano. I like how it's bringing the melody out. There, we'll bring the strings in with it. And you can fool around like that. I think you get the idea. For what this is, it's a nice little simple arrangement. You can take the MIDI that we had there and rearrange that to make it a real orchestration. Probably you want to fix some things up, change some things, add some lines, change this or change that. But once again, Suno does a pretty darn good job orchestrating, keeping the original material intact.